Good afternoon. Welcome to the first CCL activity, Connect Us, Explore, Enlighten, and Empower through GE, organized by the General Education Office. We are excited to tell you a lot of interesting things and exciting story in our GE courses. In fact, this student sharing section did not start from zero. GEO organized its second Connect Us University Student and the Society GE Assignment Competition in academic year 2022 and 23. The competition aims at recognizing students' creative engagement in the society. It was very successful as we received an overwhelming response of over 100 entries. Today, we are privileged to have 4 awardees of the competition here to share with us their exceptional learning experiences across all 3 levels of GE courses. Before we start the presentation, may I invite Professor Chiu Shong Law, the Director of General Education, to say a few words to us. Professor Chiu, please.
Thank you, Alice. So good afternoon, students and colleagues. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all here to this student event, Connect Us, Explore, Enlighten, and Empower through GE. Today, the award-winning students of the Connect Us GE Student Assignment Competition will share with us their exceptional learning experience across all 3 levels of GE courses. It's truly exciting to see how our students applied their interdisciplinary knowledge in GE projects and devised innovative solutions for real-world challenges. I trust that this session will continue to be a platform for collectively broadening our horizons and discovering new possibilities. Once again, I extend my warm welcome to all of you. Let's immerse in the amazing learning experience that our student speakers are going to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chiu. May I now introduce the 4 student speakers who are from 4 different major programs. The first speaker is Adelaide Fong from Public Relations and Advertising. And the second speaker is Jay Nai from Music in Creative Industries. And then Corinne Kwang from English Language and Education. The last speaker will be Jeannie Vishal from Mathematics and Statistics. May I now first invite Adelaide to present her outstanding work and reflections from the GE course she talked previously. Her topic of today is the golden age of Chinese journalism before the 1911 revolution, China Daily. Adelaide, please.
So hi everyone, my name is Adelaide, and today I will present the press and public opinion in China, past, present, and future. So before the start of the presentation, I would like to play a warm-up game with you guys. So please scan the QR code on the screen. So can everyone scan it and access to the Mentimeter? So if everyone is done, so let's go to the Mentimeter part. So for the first question is that, what are the characteristics of news? So yes, most of you claim that news are objective and factual, trustworthy, and relevant, about truth. And those are the common characteristics of news. And I think that this viewpoint, you can apply it to your assessment of this course. So basically for this course, most of the assessment will ask for your viewpoint on of news about the present and the past or the future, like how like what is the future of the news in China. So you can also put down those are the like keywords on your essays. And for the second question is that, can you name some of the Chinese newspaper? So some of you talk about Apple Daily. So many of you have talked about, have mentioned Apple Daily and some news in Hong Kong. But for this course, we mainly focus on the conventional newspaper in China, like the Shenpao, Shenbo, and something like Tai Gong Pao, like Dai Gong Bo in China. And we come to the next questions. Like this may be a little bit challenging if you haven't enrolled it and studied this course, but you can try to make a guess on it. So the answer should be true that Liang Qichao has started these three newspaper on his own and with his partners. So, and this is the end of the multimeter part, and let's get into the major content of this presentation. So please give me a second. So basically, the course covers the overall development of Chinese newspaper in different periods, such as the golden age of Chinese journalism before the 1911 revolution, and Hong Kong media after the Hanover, etc. So by exposing myself to different newspaper, it forces us to read more and understand the characteristics of different news. Like you guys have mentioned that news are like trustworthy, factual, and also it helps enhance our analytical and critical thinking skills. Like when you are reading a piece of news, you have to determine whether it is either neutral or with some pro-government stance. And aside from that, you can try to think whether the argument of the news proposed sound and justified by digging deeper into its logical flow and evidence. So, and here's the assessment method of this course. There are three major assessments, including the newspaper project and presentation. Second, it will be case study, and thirdly, there will be an individual book report. And frankly speaking, I think that the workload of this course is not that really heavy because we can work in group for 2 tasks and we can collaborate with our friends together. So in order to achieve a better grade of this course, what I mean to get an 8 of this course, you have to look at the requirement of the assessment. So for the first assignment, newspaper project and presentation, all we need is to design a newspaper page for a self-chosen historic day from a modern perspective. So you can pick any historic day you want, like signing of significant treaties. And after that, you have to create a social media page for a historical figure. So I know it may be a little bit sound abstract, but don't worry, I will share my grip sample to you in a minute. And another assignment will be a case study. So the professor will assign a certain topic to your group, and it should be a Chinese newspaper, for example, Shenpao. And you have to deliver a presentation of it. And basically, you need to talk about the basic background information and your own analysis. And for the last assignment, it will be an individual book report, and there will be a suggested book list, and you have to pick one out of it. Okay, so for the assessment so for the newspaper project, I will show you some of my work, and this is the table of content part of my previous assignment, and you can see that it should include some basic elements like introduction, design consideration, and the comparison between news media and traditional media. So you can capture the screen if you would like to. And let's go to get into the background part. So for the background, you have to talk about the underlying cause to the incident, to the historic day. So for my group, we picked the destruction of opium in Humen. In Chinese, is 胡门销烟. So we talk about the underlying causes leading to the incident first. And your PowerPoint do not need to be really lengthy, but alternatively, you can use some bullet points to show your ideas. And also, you can insert some graphics and photos to better illustrate your ideas. And here's my newspaper design, and you should include the details of the incident, like the date and the outcome and responses from different stakeholders. For example, the Sino government, the British government, and the enterprises in this case. So I will move on to the design of the social media post, and you can pick one of the historical characters. So for me, I picked Linda Xu, and also design some caption and graphics for that. And you can also incorporate comments from other parties. And after that, you have tried to make the comparison between news media and conventional media. First, you have to lay out your common ground. Like for us, we pick the efficiencies and the convenience in publishing the news for our common ground. And also, you can try to think your own viewpoint for yourself. And I think for this course, the major idea should be how you link the conventional newspaper into our daily life, like in this in the modern time. So also, I think the major component of this course is talk about the freedom of speech, like how the news that you found have related to freedom of speech. Like, is this news have the higher level of freedom of speech, or it has the lower level of freedom of speech, and you need to explain the reasons why. And you can like try to like analyze this piece of news as it is homogeneous, or it has the diversified feels like it accepts different viewpoints from different stakeholders. And lastly, we have also need to include the comparison over the freedom of expression. For me, I have chosen a common ground, like criticize the government. So for the past, it might be there might be diversified opinions, like people can discuss the government and different viewpoint, like opposing or supporting the government. But for the present time, it might be limited freedom of speech because under the introduction of national security law. So you have to make sure that you have present both of the viewpoints across the period. So my little tips for you is to try to use your own field. Like for me, I am from communication department, so I may have some basic understanding of media. So I will talk more about the digital media for this case. And also you have to make sure there will be a common ground for you to compare those topics. And for the last tips, I will encourage you to go to the library and read the archive, like to enhance your understanding and explore your horizon of these topics. And for the case study presentation, here is a table of content too. Like you have to briefly introduce China Daily and some worth mention point. And also you have to have a quality Q&A section, like you need to be prepared for the questions. So for some introduction of China Daily, I have mentioned the layout of it and the characteristics of each page. And also there might be some worth mention points. Of course, it is not limited to the layout. You can try to figure out another part of the news that you found interesting, and you can present it to our peers and with the professors. And also we have to design some of the Q&A. Like we have to prepare 3 questions, and each question we should have some we need to prepare the answer as well, and we have to use this question to ask the peers. And for lastly, there will be a book report, and you have to complete this report individually. So basically, for the first, maybe I can explain what should we do in each paragraph. So for the first paragraph, you need to talk about the basic summary of the book, like who write this book and when it is published. And also you can describe some of the highlight and summary of this book. And also, I think it is important for us to cite to do some citation, and also you have to include the page number of this segment. And for second and third paragraph, it will be mainly your argument and your viewpoint on this book and how it changed your mind. And for second, this is a second argument. And also for when you try to construct your own argument, you have to back up with some evidence and your basic understanding beforehand. And for the fourth paragraph, it will be some CA like counter argument and rebuttal. Like, although this book is really good, but you found that there might be some shortcomings or loopholes in this book, that you can try to explain your own and also it might be a little bit sensitive when you're trying to criticize the government, but I think you can because we have the Maltese perspective, but you can try to be neutral in some way. So this is some useful resources that you can use in this course, like 中國期刊全文數據庫, and there are many databases out of the school. And I think the biggest challenge of this course is that it is really hard for us to find ancient newspaper on the internet because it's really old, and therefore you have to look for them in the library because most of them are archived. Or if you are really interested in a certain piece of newspaper, you can seek advice from professor, and professor will be willing to help you. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adelaide. Your presentation is very fruitful. I think the students here today have learned a lot of useful tips from your presentation, especially about doing research. And now, may I invite Jane to share her GE learning experience with us? Her experience includes her reflection on the course Service Leadership Practicum. Thank you, Jane.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna start. Hey everyone, I'm Jane from the graduation class of 2023 of Music and Creative Industry. So today I'm here to share my experiences from the GCAP Service Leadership Practicum course that I took in my final semester at BU. So this course matches students with an NGO in Hong Kong and gives them an opportunity to work as an intern within that NGO for a required 120 hours total in that semester. The Service Leadership Practicum course is aimed at developing the students' service leadership competencies, which I will talk about later in the presentation. Okay. My placement was in Save the Children, and I worked as an intern on the marketing and communications team. Here are some photos of the organization's office and my office space. Save the Children was founded in the UK in 1919 by Valentine Jubb, a British social activist in the aftermath of World War I. Today, it has grown into an international NGO that helps children in over 118 countries to receive education and stay safe and healthy. The values of Save the Children are every child deserves a future, child protection, and child safeguarding. Child protection and safeguarding are similar concepts, but they are quite different. Child protection is when the NGO works with families, communities, and governments to enhance the protection of children. And child safeguarding refers to the practices and policies within the organization. An example of child safeguarding that Save the Children practice is that they recently changed the typeface in its logo because the maker of the fonts was revealed to have abused his children. Next, I will briefly talk about what I learned in terms of knowledge and skills. As someone who has never worked in an NGO before, this was an eye-opening experience which I learned a lot from. We often only see the public-facing staff and volunteers of an NGO, so I was able to learn a lot from the teams of people working behind the scenes. I was also tasked with researching chambers of commerce so Save the Children could make more connections with other leadership figures in Hong Kong. While I worked in the marketing and communications team, I helped edit and release Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube social media posts. I also worked on a few months of a share of voice analysis in comparing the public awareness of Save the Children with similar NGOs in Hong Kong that also work with children. Besides learning formatting skills in Microsoft Excel, I also learned how to create a cohesive, concise, and comprehensive PowerPoint slide in one of my tasks, helping with making a slide about the proposal of a children's soccer event in Hong Kong. By working on these slides and presentations for the team, I was able to gain more insight on project management within an organization. Some of the challenges that I saw were that it was my first time working in an office, which I found difficult to get used to as there was a lot of information I had to take in. As a music student, I was unfamiliar with how a marketing and communications team operated and with its terms. But my team was very helpful and I learned quickly thanks to them. Next, I will briefly go through the 10 leadership competencies that this course is aimed at improving. The first leadership competency is actively listening to others. So during this service leadership practicum, I improved a lot on active listening because I needed to understand the verbal instructions given for my task quickly. And I also practiced active listening by showing attentiveness with my body language and providing appropriate feedback by reiterating the tasks and procedures that I had to complete, and also by demonstrating that I had understood what was expected of me. To ensure there were no misunderstandings, I would always double confirm before I started on a task. The second leadership competency is anticipating and solving problems. I improved a lot on anticipating problems and being conscious of problems because an example of that was when I worked on the PowerPoint slide for the Save the Children's Brand Tracker Survey Action Plan, because I realized that the slide was slightly too small for a lot of the information that they wanted me to put on it. So we had to revise the slide and the information that I had to put on it. And another example is the share of voice keywords, because I was using Meltwater for the organization to calculate the share of voice that Save the Children had in Hong Kong compared to its other NGOs in Hong Kong. And the keywords had some issues, so I also was able to solve the problem by communicating with my colleagues, and they helped me solve the problem. Okay, the third leadership competency is to have a caring disposition towards colleagues and service recipients. So the service recipients of Save the Children are the children across the world and also in Hong Kong. The task that I had was to download press releases and to download video details from Facebook. So I think that this helped me cultivate a more caring disposition towards the service recipients, because I could read about the issues that affect children worldwide and how Save the Children has helped children worldwide. And I became more informed on the political issues and natural disasters that affected the children. And I was previously unaware that of the drastic impact that it had on children worldwide. So from this, I developed an empathetic view towards the service recipients. The fourth leadership competency is showing originality in expressing my opinions. I expressed my opinions when I proposed a new design for their PowerPoint slide, as I said before, when there was an issue for the slide. And I also did research for chambers of commerce for the NGO, because they wanted to participate in a lot of different chambers of commerce in Hong Kong, as their CEO wanted to make more connections with other leadership figures in Hong Kong. And so after doing my research, I also had to write my opinions on whether each chamber of commerce is suitable for Save the Children to join, and why, and also why not. So this was I was able to show originality in expressing my own opinions through this. The fifth leadership competency is contributing to cohesiveness and close relationships with colleagues and or service recipients. So I think for this, I will talk about more about my relationship with my colleagues because as a marketing and communication intern, I was not able to interact with any of the service recipients of Save the Children. So for this, I participated in team lunches and also a birthday party, and I would attend all of their team meetings and also office meetings, which they had every Friday for the whole office. And I will also make an effort to socialize and get to know my office colleagues. The sixth leadership competency is committing to continuous self-improvement. So during my 120 hours at Save the Children, I would continuously reflect on my own behavior and performance so that I could do my best for the team. And I was also critical of my own work as I would revise before I handed it in. And I would also ask my supervisor how to do better. And these examples of my work are the Chambers of Commerce research and on the share of voice in Meltwater and editing and translation of video details for YouTube. The next leadership competency is undertaking delegated responsibilities. So for this, I made an effort to understand my task thoroughly and also the purpose of my tasks. I also handed in my task on time, and I also made sure to ask for a deadline so there will be no misunderstandings. And I would frequently check in with my colleagues on my task progress and tell them how I'm doing. The next one is civic engagement and trying to make a difference to the NGO and community. Since I was a marketing and communications intern, there was no opportunities for civic engagement during this internship, but I did put a lot of effort into rewriting the video descriptions and details for YouTube so I could make a difference to the community by reaching out to the public better about Save the Children's mission and also to make information and details concise and accessible for the public. I would have to write in both English and Chinese and make sure that both the descriptions were accessible to the public and clear and concise. The next one is influencing others' thinking and decision making. For this, as I said before, I provide advice on which chambers of commerce to look into further based on my research for Save the Children. And I also provide advice on the videos that were suitable to post on Save the Children's YouTube channel from their Facebook page. This last one is project coordination skills. As the intern in the office, I observe how Save the Children and how the marketing and communications team operates. I could do this by attending their team meetings and office meetings where I could see them summarize how their events and project went, which gave me valuable insight on aspects involved in project coordination, such as project goals and objectives, and also the roles and responsibilities involved in the project. Also, their communications with their stakeholders and that they have to inform them of their progress because they are their stakeholders, and also how to manage their project resources, which include people, equipment, and materials. So that's the end of my presentation, and thank you for listening.
Sorry. Thank you, Jane, for your very valuable sharing of your practical experience. In fact, I'm quite confident that your leadership competencies have improved a lot through this practical experience. Now let's move on to our next student speaker. Welcome Corinne to present her outstanding work about the review of Hong Kong's tax system and reflections from the GE course. Corinne, thanks. Hello, Corinne.
Hello, can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So hello everyone. So I'm Corinne. Last year's semester one, I have participated in the course at GTSU 2027, Tax Answer for Wealth Inequality. So initially I didn't plan to join this course because it's very different from my major. As you know, I'm an English education student. So this is from the Department of Accountancy. So I will later on, I soon to realize this is a very important topic because, all of us will need to pay some wages, tax wages, or maybe some other taxes like housing or other things. So it's really useful for you. And I would like to use some time to talk about the content of the course. So there will be a group debate. So we'll usually debate on the suitability and the effectiveness of a particular measure or policy implemented in Hong Kong. And we will discuss how to reduce wealth inequality. And there will be a group presentation about we'll do some research on Hong Kong and another country's tax system, and then we will do a lot of comparisons, and then we will see how the tax reforms and the practices for wealth redistribution. And there will be a little quiz. I think it's quite hard, but it's fine because actually the instructor will tell you about the laws about taxes, so you just need to memorize the laws, and then you just analyze the whole situation, and then you just do some calculations. And also for today's most important point is the individual assignment sharing. So I'll be sharing with you my research on a topic which is Hong Kong's tax system. So I'll talk about 5 aspects. So let me talk about the benefits first. As you know, Hong Kong is a free port with no tariffs on imported goods. So it's quite easy to assess, and it remains highly transparent because the simple tax system and the low tax rates can attract overseas companies, because the maximum tax rate for companies is only 17%, and sustainable economic growth is supported by overseas investment because Hong Kong is an international city. And also the tax system helps enhance the competitiveness through a very simple and inexpensive regime. So according to the 2017 policy address, it was announced that a 2-tier profits tax rate has been implemented in next year, which the first two tiers are reduced to 8.25% of the corporate profits. So this greatly reduces the tax burdens for enterprises, especially some startups. So a lot of people are benefited from this tax system. So as a result, Hong Kong ranked 3rd in attracting overseas business in 2021. Yeah, just around the pandemic. So according to the report done by UNCTAD World Investment, in 2022, the overseas business last year have invested US dollars 140.7 billion in Hong Kong. That's a very large amount. So this has shown that Hong Kong's position as an international financial center is really enhanced through this tax system. Although a lot of people are benefited from this tax system, I found some challenges within it. So the first thing is the narrow tax base with salary taxes and profits tax are the very few main revenue sources. So it's quite narrow for some authorities or the government to get more income. So these two categories has accounted for 2/3 of the total tax income. So if we're talking about the pandemic, the unstable government revenue due to the pandemic will result in a very challenging situation for the government's economic income. So about 75,000 registered companies in Hong Kong, and the top 800 companies that pay for most tax account for 60% of the total profits. So if the income has reduced, the government will receive fewer income as well. So the volatility of minimum and maximum income for profits tax purposes are 87% and 48% respectively. So the distance and the difference of two numbers are really huge. So this is a quite a worrying thing about Hong Kong's tax system. And the smallest percentage of the population contributes a little portion of the tax income. So only 35% of the labor are required to pay the tax, and the top like 100,000 companies contribute for the 60% of the tax income. So this is a problem that the government needs to be issued. So I've talked about the benefits and the challenges of the tax system in Hong Kong. Let's analyze the effectiveness. So we usually use the Gini coefficient to analyze and then to evaluate the effectiveness of our tax system. So after the tax implemented in Hong Kong, so the before tax number is 0.538, but after tax is 0.473. So although the reduction is just 0.066, it's quite little, but it's already a huge leap in reducing inequality. And then we can analyze the poverty rate as well, because the poverty situation report in 2018, it has shown that poverty rate was almost 15%, but in 2019 it dropped 5.7% to 9.2%. So it's quite huge drop, and overall I think this is a effective way to reduce wealth inequality in Hong Kong. So I have some recommendations for wealth redistribution in Hong Kong. So raising profits tax rates can obtain more tax from high profit corporations, because they tend to maximize their benefits incomes. But if the government can raise their tax rate, so they can give the government more income, the government can use these money to allocate more resources to the needy groups. So I have one concern. The Hong Kong market may become less competitive globally in the economics, because if you raise the tax, less company or fewer companies will come to Hong Kong and set their business. And also the wealth tax adjustment can reduce wealth concentration and provide resources to the poor. So a lot of people are suffering from poverty, because Hong Kong is a economic society. So it helps to curb the rate of wealth growth of the rich and enhance the poor population's educational level, and even give them labor opportunities. So the last recommendation is levying progressive tax. So it's to reduce the financial burden on the poor and increase government income. So by increasing low-income families' income and decrease the highest income household income, we can raise the degree of satisfaction and then make the society less M-shaped, but in a more balanced wealth distribution. Yeah. So there are other measures for this issue. So we can address the minimum wage. As you can see, a lot of stakeholders always argue about this. But South China Morning Post has stated the government reviews the minimum wage every 2 years, which is quite frequent, and found that the number of low-wage earners is increasing. Because our products always suffer from inflation, so we need to buy the goods in a more expensive price. So I think minimum wage must be increased. And also, the inequality report in 2018 suggests that the hourly wage should rise to 44.5 to cover their financial burdens. And I think the current minimum wage is very insufficient to support the basic needs of a poor family. So the government must pay attention to this. And another thing is we need to provide equal employment opportunities for minorities and needy groups, because the government seems to pay less attention to them and give them less resources. So these people will suffer from poverty because of this. So government can launch some social enterprise inclusion scheme to increase their income, because when the social capital and the labor workforce increase, the whole social economic status will increase as well. So last thing I would like to share is the learning experience. I think it's very frustrating because I used to perform very poorly in my economics, but after entering into university, I think economy is not only about those abstract concepts, but it's very down to earth. You can see the tax knowledge. I think everyone needs to know. And I have learned a lot. I have learned about the elements of the tax system, different types of taxation, the pros and cons, how to calculate the tax, and learning about laws and the causes of wealth inequality, and thinking about some resolutions. So I have mentioned the difficult part is calculating tax and studying tax laws, but your instructor will help you. And the most interesting part is you won't really take the initiative to know other countries' tax system, right? But this offers me an opportunity to learn more about the world and then broaden my horizons towards different tax systems. And then I think learning about the functional economy in society really helps you to learn about the social issues and identify the social problems in society as well. So if some of you may want to develop your own company in the future, you can avoid some economic and legal mistakes as well. So and then you can consider creating a business career in the future if you learn and know these very crucial knowledge. Yes, thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Corinne. I am very interested in listening to your presentation because it's really down to earth, as you said, and it's really it's closely related to our daily life and social issues. Thanks a lot for your sharing. Last but not least, may I invite Guinea, who will share with us his work on the scientific view on love and his learning experience in the GE course. Guinea, please.
Thank you, everyone. So just hold on, let me get this set up. Okay, and then present. Okay, everyone can see the screen, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so hi everyone. So I am Guinea, as you know from the slide that I'm actually a year 2 student. Currently, I major in maths and statistics with a minor in finance. But if you look back to the content or what we're going to be covering today, the scientific view of love, which is actually from a GE course called The Meaning of Love, Sex and Body, and it's actually more towards philosophy. So then you might wonder, why is a person from science doing a course related to philosophy? So then before we continue any forward, we have a short Mentimeter activity. So if you can scan the QR code, please do so. We'll have a short question, which is, what comes to your mind when you hear the word love? Yeah. So we'll just wait like a couple of seconds to see if we have any responses. So we have heartbroken. Oh, wow. Okay, that's very interesting. Okay, we have commitment. We have romantic. Okay. Okay, quite a diversity of responses. But interesting that our first word was heartbroken. Oh, passion. Okay, man and woman. Okay, wow. So you see, so this is the point that we want to emphasize here. When the word love comes to our mind, we can actually see that we have a lot of different answers. Wow, Very, very positive, healthy responses here. But anyway, so if we move on to why I chose the course, is actually pretty much this point. Actually, we can see that we have many different answers when it comes to love. And then since I was always a science student, and had no background in philosophy or in arts, complete science student. But then I did have some interest in science, but then in philosophy, I mean, but then couldn't really pursue it in my secondary school life. So then this course served as a very good transition. So moving on to talking about what did this course cover. So if you can look at this, the course content of this course, you will find that actually most of the course content doesn't really cover about love. It's actually a lot of social issues around love. So it can be something about marriage and family issues and other issues that that are in our society. But that wasn't really what I signed up for. So then later on, I got the idea of, why don't I do my research paper? Because for one of the assignments for the course was to do a research paper and presentation. So I decided to research on what I wanted to study. What is love from a scientific viewpoint? Yeah. So then this is what we'll be sharing for the rest of this sharing is I will talk about what is love, some background. So we will define what is love from a scientific viewpoint first, and then we'll look at some biological processes that lead to it. And then we'll also talk about some limitations of science behind my research. And then we'll also finally take some, understand that there can be different answers as well, apart from science. So moving on, what is love? Yeah, if we look at from scientific viewpoint, it's actually a mixture of three different feelings, which is attraction. So for example, when you see someone very attractive, maybe you might like them. So that's actually the first aspect. The second one is attachment, I think, which is probably the most important one, which is actually related to having a long-term connection with a certain somebody. You feel that you have a very strong connection with them and they have taken up some special meaning in your life. And finally, lust, I think I don't have to explain this, so we'll move on. And then we come to the question, what actually causes us these feelings or causes love? Actually, from science, we actually say hormones are the main drivers of love. If you recall that hormones are chemical messengers in your body that that usually bind to cells to signal certain action. Usually they serve as some regulatory system to maintain the body at an optimal level, but then they also play a very important role when it comes to our feelings, emotions, and if we have different feelings and emotions, we can act in a different way as well. Moving on, so we're going to talk about what are the different hormones that cause us these different feelings. So when we look at attraction, it's actually caused by dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. Now, I think most of you can see theirs are mostly related to happiness that you can see. Serotonin, the third one, is completely related to happiness. So, but then when we look at dopamine, it's like more of a pleasure and reward system. So it gives you the motivation to do something. So like, because basically when you do an action, you get an increase in dopamine level and then your body craves for that increase and it basically motivates you to do that thing again and again. Norepinephrine is like another similar hormone giving you interest in life and helps you cope with stress. And then you can see that it relates to attraction because science says that we really like looking at beautiful things or cute things. It generally just that's why whether some of you might like looking at nature. So you might like looking at the sunset. So similarly, it applies the same concept to people. You see something pretty and then you feel happier. Moving on to, then if we feel attracted to a certain person, why? Why is it that I certainly feel attracted to, let's say, him or her? Yeah, why him or her? That's the big question. So actually, there are many different reasons for this. Sometimes scientists say it could be just that their timing is right. You were just at the right time together, or maybe it might be someone from similar ethnicity or socioeconomic background, or you might have different same education level. So different factors, or for some people, they might like people who are similar to them, similar personalities, while others like people from completely different personalities. So this comes down to our core values. What are the things that I value, and based on those, you would be able to find who is suitable for you. Moving on. So there are always some other factors we don't know. Moving on to attachment, so which is related to the long-term relationship. Yeah, so it's related to oxytocin, and which increases our sense of security, enhances our self-worth. You know, we find that, oh, we have this very important person, we found a very important person to and they really care about us, and then we feel that we have some strong importance in the world, and during this drives us to feel warm. And then similarly, on the other side, the person who has a higher level of vasopressin, they usually, when they find someone important to them, they want to protect that person or look after them and give support in the long term, and try their best to make them successful in every way possible. And finally, lust is controlled by the gender hormones, you may say. So it's not generally like very gender specific. It's not just that only males have testosterone or females have estrogen, but it's just that males generally tend to have higher, but estrogen is usually higher among the females. So usually testosterone is related to the impulsive behavior, while estrogen is more related to the mood swings. But then this feeling is actually, I would say, very short term, not so relevant for most people, I would say. Moving on to talking about what causes the change in these hormones. Actually, you can think of it in terms of from like computer science, we have this concept of input, process, output, can be applied everywhere. So even here, you see, when we see a person which is attractive to us, so, you know, there's some processes that goes in our brain, which leads to these changes in hormones. And similarly, if we keep moving forward, changing in hormones leads to some other processes leading to changes in actions. Moving on. So actually now from a larger, bigger picture, why do we actually love? Is actually from a scientist explains that all living things avoid decay into disorder and equilibrium. So what does this mean? Actually, in the big picture, we know that every living being will be dead. But then generally, if we look in the biology, we are all programmed to apparently protect this golden chemical called the DNA. So that's why we try to produce new life. And then if you see over the centuries, no matter what way you look at it, we are always trying to preserve the DNA, whether it's through natural selection, so on and so forth. We don't know why, but this is how it is. And then moving on to the limitations of science, actually, I would say there's actually no single formula to love. It's a very complicated process. There can be multiple inputs, and then those inputs get taken to different processes, and there might be so many processes happening in our body. You know, that's why we have an entire study called biology, right? So that's why we can only generalize and then try to come to a point where we can all agree. Therefore, if you see here, to conclude, there are many explanations to love and many different understandings of love. You see, if we look at this illustration, someone might say they see a 6, someone might say they see a 9, but can we say anyone is wrong? No, they can both be considered right. It's just a matter of perspective. So therefore, in the end, I would say, if you want to understand what is love, I would leave that question to you as well. What is love to you? And thank you.
Thank you, Guinea, for giving us a lesson on love. It's
Thank you.
interesting to see a science student explore so much in love
Right.
in this GE course. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, thank you again for the very thought-provoking presentations of the 4 student speakers. Let's come to the Q&A section. But first, may I ask if today's student speakers have any question to ask the other speakers? You can just open your mic to tell us your questions, or you raise up your hand.
Oh, I actually have a question for Jane. My question is, since she was able to have work at Save the Children NGO, I wanted to ask if she was able to get some general idea on how these NGOs raise funding for their operations.
Hello. So, as I work on the marketing and communications team, I'm not super familiar with the funding because there's another team for that and I wasn't on that team, but I do know that they get most of their funding from donations from the public. Yeah.
I see. So marketing would be a major contributor to those donations.
Right, because usually NGOs don't like to use the word marketing, but it actually is essential to reach the public with marketing.
I see. Thank you.
How about Corinne? Do you have anything to ask the other 2 speakers? Adeline has left for Lexon. So do you have any question to ask Guinea and Jane? Corinne?
Yes. So because usually like I want to ask a question for Guinea. Love is a very philosophical thing. I think because it's about the emotion or an element that you interact with others in a very intimate relationship. So after studying this course, do you think science would substitute the value of philosophy? Because they always fight, like they have a lots of opposites like that. Yeah.
Personally, I think science can generally it can be come to there is certain division why we separate science and philosophy, but I would say in some sense for all the answers that we cannot get as of moment, I think we can consider that from philosophy or based on different people's opinions. But for a lot of the actually, in fact, for a lot of the studies in philosophy, they actually, I would say, to some extent, use some science. Like we all have to use some level of statistics, right? Like whenever we do a study, we have to do some statistics based on how much data do we get. But I would say philosophy should always remain there for all the answers that science cannot find yet. Yeah.
Thank you. And can I ask you one more question?
Yes, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Have you heard about the term platonic love?
Yes. Generally known as friendship, right?
It's just like you're in an intimate relationship. I just want to have love, but I don't want to have some
I know.
sexual intercourse.
I
So,
see.
what are your thoughts on this kind of relationship?
I think usually, generally, it can be thought of as, to some sense, friendship. So I think it can be just strong as like if friendships have different levels as well. So see, sometimes like, you know, on the lower end, we can just have some hi bye friends that you say hi to when you're walking around campus. On the other hand, you can have some really strong, like really good friends who you want to be, who whenever you have some success, you go together to celebrate it. whenever you're feeling down, they're the first person when you go talk to. And then as well as you want to be successful together. So mutual friendship. But then when it comes to, I think it's important, it's still there. So platonic love, I think, is just another way of saying love within friendship. No, not romantic love. Romantic love can be something separate. So but imagine from science, so imagine it's the first person that comes to your mind when you close your eyes, or like or they have really taken some really special meaning that you want to spend your whole life with them. So that would be romantic. But then I think platonic love is probably very important. There's some aspect to it in love in general. So I think the best kind of love is we try to make the other person happy, and then try to make them try our best to make them achieve what they want to our full power. Yeah.
Thank you.
Corinne, you did a very in-depth investigation on the test system of Hong Kong. Maybe Jay, do you have any question about test system to ask Corinne? Ask her how to reduce test.
Right. So first of all, I want to ask, besides the concern that you stated Hong Kong could become less competitive in global economics from your tax change recommendations, right? To what extent would your recommendations cause an imbalance within Hong Kong economics? So not global.
You mean the effectiveness?
No. Is there any chance that your recommendations would cause an imbalance within the economics of Hong Kong?
Let me see. I think to some extent it will cause some imbalance, because like a tax system, the government will use it for some years, right? So if some policymakers suddenly make a great change in it, so Hong Kong's economy will face imbalance. I think one concern is the potential impact on the city's competitiveness, because Hong Kong's low tax rates have been a significant factor in attracting businesses and companies, right? So if tax rates were substantially increased, or if the tax system becomes more complex in a way that it may be very unfriendly to the companies, it will reduce the city's competitiveness and potentially lead to an outflow of the capital and the talent. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is it okay if I also ask a question to Jamie?
Sure.
Sure, please.
Sure.
Okay, so I want to ask, to what extent does the culture of a person affect that person's view on the scientific aspect versus the more ideological aspect of love, and whether or not there are cultures that are more likely to emphasize a certain aspect of love?
I think actually culture plays a very important role in understanding pretty much everything. Even though, like, although we do have the science, like when it comes to reality, it really just comes down to, a lot of it comes down to what we believe more in. So like, although we have this scientific view and all, but sometimes people still tend to see whether it aligns with their core values or not. And core values are more developed through culture. So for example, we here live in a Asian culture society, and then we know what our cultural values are, and then based on that, we would have a kind of a more similar way of behaving when it comes to similar cultures, and then similarly behaving when it's tendency when it comes to finding love and all. and it can be simplified by a simple example, how culture affects us. So imagine being with a group of friends, right? So if we are surrounded by friends who like partying a lot, then we have a tendency to follow them. Actually, humans have a very good tendency to being in a similar social group. So then if my friends are partying, then I would be kind of motivated or to follow them. So I would end up partying them as well. Similarly, if I'm around a group who wants to be very hardworking students, then by looking at them, then I would also, hey, maybe I should be doing something similar, and then we work towards something. Yeah. So culture plays a very
Right.
important role.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe it's time to move on to the roundtable discussion.
Right.
The floor now is open to participants. Please feel free to ask any question or post your question in the chat box. Or if you have many thoughts, any thoughts arise from the presentations of the student speakers, you can also express your opinion, your views in the chat box. Okay, the floor is open now. Please feel free to stand up and say and tell us your question. Okay, maybe Angela,
Oh, is that
who
me?
is the assistant director of GE.
Yeah, I'm a student,
You-
obviously. No. All right, okay. So, well, I have a question. I have actually two questions. The first question is for both Corinne and Guinea, and the second question is for Jane. So the first question for Corinne and Guinea is that, well, actually both of you mentioned that you stepped out of comfort zone because Corinne is an English major, but then you took a course about the tech system, about economy, about accountancy. And then Guinea actually took a course about law as a science student. Well, I actually would say philosophy is related to science. Actually, philosophy is very scientific because you also talked about the chemicals and, hormones and so on. But then how do you feel about stepping out of your comfort zone? And how do you feel about this kind of interdisciplinary education which GE courses offered help with your current study and perhaps your future studies or future career development? So this is my question for you too, Corinne and Guinea. And my second question is for Jane. Now, well, it seems to me, Jane, that you are, well, I will say you're doing something very similar to your major because actually you're doing creative industries, and then you serve in a you served in an NGO as part of your course, which is a Save the Children, which is an NGO as well. But then, how do you think your major helped you complete assignments, perhaps, or how you help you learn in that course? I am asking this question because you took a service leadership education course, which is SLE. And actually, SLE is a very special category, not only in the GE program, but also in the university. So how do you feel about taking SLE course, and how do you think your major can help with your study of that particular course? Thank you. Okay. So perhaps Guinea and Corinne can answer my first question.
Yeah. Please allow me. So actually, personally, when stepping out of this comfort zone and taking a philosophy course, I actually found it to be a very, very good experience because, in fact, I think the reason I liked it is because I actually had some interest in this philosophy, and then being able to pursue that interest through this GE course kind of allowed me to learn a bit more from my specialty, which is science originally. And actually, like when we tend to pursue our interests, I actually feel we learn more than what we are normally intended or kind of are doing our major in. So pursuing major, when you're interested to learn something, I think you end up learning more. For example, one interesting thing that I learned, which is kind of can be thought of as a soft skill or soft skill knowledge, is because actually it's a communication skill. So when you talk with the person, it actually depends on how or where you should be looking when you're talking to a person. Right, yeah. So actually one interesting point is whenever you're talking to men, men would usually not look directly into your eyes.
Really?
When usually when men are actually talking, they would actually be looking towards the side, and then they will usually be looking at somewhere else, and then they would be talking to you. But
Right,
but
okay.
then on the opposite, you women actually tend to look directly face to face, having a eye contact. And this is what I interestingly found. I don't know if
Right.
people agree or not, but generally I have also found that most
Oh.
of my male friends tend to look away when we're talking to each other.
All right.
Even if one of us tries to look at each other into the eye contact, the other one would still look away. So we technically have this kind of subtle fear
Right,
among us
okay.
not looking at each other.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Didi. And I think Guinea has some relations with the course because he's a math major, right? So science, but for me, it's totally nothing related to
Yes.
my major. So it's very frustrating at first because it's just like I can understand those English, but I don't really understand what's going on
Yeah, it
in the
happens.
course. Yeah, so it's just like how you face your fears, really. And then I think you know, the knowledge is like sea. You'll find a lot of treasures in it. So if you're afraid of stepping out of your comfort zone, you will learn less than others. So this is why I want to try. So after this course, I think what relates to English, I think, is the text terminology, because they have some very specific terms, and then the concepts that may require some English proficiency to understand and comprehend. And also I think how can I say how it relates to my major is I think I maybe being some translators in some companies in the future. We don't know, right? So although a very great chance I'll be an English teacher in the future, but it's very important to communicate with tax professionals like clients, colleagues, and maybe tax authorities about your problems. So I think it's very useful and very helpful for me to writing some reports and maybe tax memos in the future. So I think the last thing is tax education, right? So when as a student I study tax law or maybe tax accounting in these kind of situations or courses. So this allows me to have an opportunity to learn about how the government works, like the economic office works. So it will broaden my job perspective and also my knowledge to the government's operation. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's good. Thanks a lot, Corinne. And what about Jane? Just remember my question, Jane.
You were talking about how I feel about learning in a service learning education course.
Yeah, because actually, yeah, this is a very unique category, not only in the G program, but also in the university. How do you feel about this course? And do you think actually working in an NGO is related to your major because it's creative industry? Could be relevant. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll answer the first question first. So I think working taking the service leadership education course, super beneficial to my own personal development, not just to get a grade in the university, but also it helps me develop myself as a person and also work on my interpersonal relationships with other people and my soft skills. Yeah. And the second question is, well, actually, it's not related at all because my major is music and creative industries. And right. And so what I was learning to do was to write music for movies and games. So it's not the same. Yeah, it's totally not the same. And so I would say that my major did not help at all. And also in addition, because I was working in the marketing and communications team, it was very difficult as I never really took any courses related to marketing and communications ever. So it was a lot to learn, and overall very enriching and a diverse way to to educate myself, because usually I just have to stick to the music courses at school.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's an eye opener, wasn't it? Yeah. All right.
Right.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Jane. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
There is a question in the chat box. Maybe I invite Guinea to answer. Do you think that the interdisciplinary knowledge you gain from the GE course facilitate your major study? Or more specifically, how about your personal or career development? Any help from the knowledge you learn?
I think it's like it kind of gives us an awareness of, it's like you can say, holistic development. So you see, if you see that if we have no GE course curriculum at all, I'm just a math student, all I do is just doing my maths. But then when I go out there in the world, it's more than that. It's more than that. It's not just having the mathematical, hard skills are of course important, but they're not enough. Like, we have to be generally aware about knowledges of different fields. That's how you become an interesting person, and that's how you make friends, you communicate with colleagues and build better relationships overall. And some of it even comes down to communication as well, because if you have more knowledge, awareness about different cultures, different things, then you're able to communicate those things with those ideas better. Yeah, so I think it generally helps with holistic development.
Corinne, may I invite you to answer the next question in the chat box? Do you find any interesting activity in the course you took about test system? Any group activities or outside campus activity in the course?
Unfortunately, when I was studying this course, it's under the pandemic.
Oh.
So there's not much, just some group debate and presentation, but I can use other GE courses to answer the question. So there are two GE courses I like the most. One of those was the Canton Pop one. Yeah,
Canton Pop.
Yeah, another course which I am studying right now is the media literacy course. Yeah, it's a GCAP course. So I found it very interesting because we can make some songs. We even created a MV and then we changed the lyric. It's quite funny. Yeah, it's from Ethan Chan's song, and then we have opportunities to teach students. Like now, because I'm studying media literacy, I create a lot of PowerPoints, and then I created a lot of Menti Kahoots to my students about teaching her how to be a responsible netizen online. So these elements are very rare in normal lessons because it's kind of like student initiative activities, and the homeworks are very creative. We can just brainstorm a lot, and then we can facilitate or maybe exchange our ideas with others, so we can know how to make the whole course more engaging and better. So yeah, that's probably it.
That's good. Yeah. Okay. There is another question. Maybe I invite Jane to answer. Do you have any tips for other students who want to study GE course? Or the one that you took GE capstone course?
Oh, for GCAP?
I know that you have.
Okay. Right. I just saw the question and the follow-up. So I think when you choose a GE course, for me, it was always very important to choose something that I personally am interested in and I want to learn more about. So some people, they would go online or ask their friends which one is the easiest to do. or which one is the easiest to do the least work and get a good grade in, or because maybe they don't want to do that much work or they just want a good grade. I think it's more important to actually choose something that will benefit you as a person in the long term, and you can actually learn from it and improve yourself. Yeah, and there are a lot of courses that can do that. So I recommend everyone to actually choose something that they are interested in learning.
I would actually like to add up on that. So then
Sure.
after you have realized like a list of courses that you think you're interested in, actually I would say the number one way to choose whether that course is suitable for you or not, go sit in that course during the add and drop period. Yeah, I think this is the number one way to like really know how is the course. Because I think actually looking at the course information sheet that you find online is not going to be useful. And even for if you ask your friends, generally, you know, someone else's interest might be different compared to yours. So then, for example, someone might have a strong interest in history. So then they might enjoy a GE course related to history. Someone maybe like someone else may not have any interest in history at all. And then their friends tell them, hey, you know, this history GE course was super easy, it was super fun. And then you go in there and then it will be a disaster. So please do go sit in the GE course during the add and drop period and then find if you like it or not.
Thank you. That's very useful. I think it's about time to round up. Thank you for all your active participation and valuable insights on interdisciplinary learning in GE. And our special thanks goes to the 4 student speakers. We hope that all of you enjoyed the event. Now I'm going to introduce to you some exciting GE activities in the coming days. I guess that you must have learned a lot from the students' presentations just now. As said at the beginning of the event, today's speakers got the awards in the GE assignment competition. So the next round of competition will be held at the end of semester 2. Please stay tuned to our announcement and hope you will join the competition. And then, as said by Guinea, you have to choose carefully what GE course you're going to take. So we have a GE course promotion activity in the coming semester too. Come to join us. There will be some exhibitions and some counters to help you to answer questions on GE courses. We look forward to your participation. And have you emerged and exchanged to another university in Hong Kong? HKBU and CTU has launched a cross-institutional GE course enrollment scheme. You can enrich your GE experience by taking courses in CTU. So please stay tuned to our announcement. The application for semester 2 will start in late November. Please keep finding our news on Facebook or IG. So please follow our IG page and the Facebook page of GE Office, and we will send you any update information for courses and activities and even study tips. So thank you again. If you have any questions regarding your selection of GE courses or the courses you are taking, please feel free to contact our staff or go to our office at AAB 805. And thank you very much again. It's near the end of this sharing section, and we would like to collect your feedback on the event. Your attendance of the event will be confirmed after you finish the survey. So please check the QR code here and complete the survey as soon as possible to confirm your attendance. Okay, thank you very much for joining us today, and we are very happy to see you all here, and we look forward to meeting you again in the coming future in our future activities. Thank you very much. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.